Hello everyone! I am Alice of KHR Arts and Cloud Orchid Publishing, and today we are going to talk about the myth of that good book sales also means your book is good quality. Let's talk about it. So unfortunately, there is this myth that is incredibly pervasive, that people believe that if your book is good, meaning that it's well written, that it's something that people want to read, just good. Just everything that encompasses that word. That this is a book worth reading. That sales will directly correlate to how well written and how good your book is. And I'm here to tell y'all that unfortunately that is completely untrue. To utilize a couple of examples on how this correlation means absolutely nothing is I'm gonna ruffle some feathers here. And I'm going to explain why, so hold your fire in the comments until the end of the explanation, okay? Okay. You can still be mad, that's okay, but I want y'all to hear the whole explanation first. Twilight is not a good book series. Here's why. I know you're gonna be mad. I know. Okay, here's why. I am the kind of person where I need to make sure that I have an educated opinion before I have an opinion about something. And I did sit and I did read some of the Twilight books in order to have an opinion on them. I will specify I did not read them because I necessarily wanted to read them. I read them to have an opinion about them because they have been such a topical cultural phenomenon, and it's important to know the source material when you're going to talk about something. So way back in the day when Twilight was first popular, I read some of the books to be like, what exactly is this that everybody is so excited about? Because I'd heard the premise and, seen all the everything everywhere, but I needed to actually read the text to be like, all right, what is this? It's not well written. It is at best at like a 5th grade level, if not lower. As there is, I forget what the YouTuber's name was because it's been like well over a decade, y'all. They made a funny in that the main character in the story is so just absolutely never explained. They're just this faceless, nameless construct of a person just doobity-doing through the story. Like, nothing, they're not actively doing anything. Things are just happening at them. They have no active part in their own destiny, which is also what makes this book series not good, in that there's no description. And so they were like, so I just arbitrarily decided that instead of calling the main character Bella, I decided to rename the main character as Pants. P-A-N-T-S, as in the things you wear. And they were like, it made absolutely zero difference to the story. I just imagined a sentient pair of pants instead of this Bella person, and the story made about as much sense as if they were a sentient pair of pants. That's not good. That's not good writing. Your main character shouldn't be so faceless and descriptionless and just so, like, not even existing in your own story that you can replace them with a pair of pants and the story will still continue on and make sense. That's not good writing. What makes it successful as a book series, and being well written and being successful, again, are two very different things, is that it was just a zeitgeist cultural phenomenon. So to begin with, a fact that a lot of people don't know is that Twilight was actually written as a fan fiction about Interview with a Vampire. And that whole series, Interview with a Vampire, Queen of the Damned, The Vampire Lestat, all of that. Twilight is fan fiction of that. That's why it's written the way it is. It's literally fan fiction, and I want to preface, there's nothing wrong with fan fiction. In fact, my romance novels are actually originally fan fiction that I then scraped the serial numbers off of, made some changes, and polished it up. You can absolutely have a story originate as fan fiction. There's nothing wrong with that. But I just want to give y'all just all the beats here on why this is the way it is. That's part of why this became the phenomenon that it was, is because it was fan fiction based on an incredibly well-written, successful book series. Interview with a Vampire, Queen of the Damned, just that whole series with Anne Rice. So of course something that's adjacent to that is going to pick up some of the magic of that. Just the same as what people also probably don't realize, and part of why it also became the zeitgeist that it was, and again, is not well written, is 50 Shades of Grey. 50 Shades of Grey was a fan fiction of Twilight. So that always cracks me up. But it's true. These are the things that made Twilight popular and people enjoyed reading it, but it did not mean that it was a good book or a well-written story. It was just enjoyable. In the same way that eating cotton candy is enjoyable and it's fun, but there's no nutritional value. It's not good for you. It's not a good food item, but you're gonna put it in your face anyway. It's the same thing, is that something can be fun and it can be popular and you can enjoy it, and it can still be trash. There's plenty of stuff out there, like Chuck Tingle is the king of the enjoyable trash. Pounded in the Butt by Kofefe. That is a real book title that he wrote. Like, that's his whole shtick, is that it's just pounded in the butt by whatever, and it's always just silly and ridiculous. That is his entire brand. And we can all agree, like, it is cotton candy. That is its purpose. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. And in fact, a lot of times we just want to reach for some cotton candy. We don't need a full, nutritious, balanced meal. Sometimes we just want to have a fun, fluffy snack. And that's okay. And that's what Twilight is, and that's what 50 Shades of Grey is. That's okay. But I want to point out to y'all that that doesn't make them good. And the reason why I'm pointing this out, we are not throwing hate on Twilight. We are not throwing hate on any of these things. That is not the point of this explanation. I want to give y'all the perspective of Twilight was not well written. It was not good. But holy shit, did it make book sales, y'all. It sold thousands, if not millions, of copies. It had its own movies. It has a rabid fan base. It has all this merch. Just so much financial success, okay? Even though it's not good. So the financial and just phenomenon success that it had zero correlation to the quality of the story and the quality of it as a book. And so if that's one end of the spectrum, on the other end of the spectrum, unfortunately, is a lot of authors where they have really amazing stories that are really well written, that are really, really good books, but they don't get the attention and sales that Twilight gets. Or even if you want to take it a step down, and if you want to think of, you know, whatever local author that is doing amazing, but they're not like famous, they don't have movie deals or anything like that, but they're doing really, really well. Even at that level. Just because you're not functioning on that level doesn't mean your writing is bad. There is no correlation between book sales and quality of your book, especially in today's world. So that might have been closer in terms of truthfulness way back in the 60s and the 70s and even part of the 80s with book culture, because all of those books were handled by traditional publishers. So it was already so difficult to get your book published, and those publishers were so motivated to make sure that your book makes money because they want to make money. It's a business, hello. So of course, whatever the few lucky people that do get published, the quality of their writing is going to reflect the sales that they get, because the publishers only want to take the best of the best. Whereas today we have a whole spectrum of different kinds of book publications out there. We still have the tried and true traditional publishers. We have this whole hybrid publishing, which I talk about in one of my other videos. We're not getting into that. And then self-publishing and indie publishers and small press and all of that. There's just this whole swath of different ways that you can get your book out there into the world. And that means with so much more competition and so many different avenues, that means that there's also more shit out there than ever before. There's more writing that's bad. There's more storytelling that's bad. There's more just like it's full of typos and it's just poorly written, or even just all of the AI slop that's out there too. Just having to compete with all of that. And for whatever reason, just the universe will just go boop and just pick something random and just, this will be the thing. Everyone will just, this is the thing for arbitrary reasons, completely arbitrary reasons. And that's the other thing to keep in mind is sometimes things blow up the way they do and go viral the way they do for no other reason other than God loves an idiot and the universe loves to create chaos. Sometimes that is the case. Now, I also want to make this very important distinction as well. I am not saying that books that are well written have no chance of having good book sales and becoming popular. That's not what we're saying here. What I'm saying is that I don't want writers to get discouraged with getting their first novel out there or even getting their second or their fifth novel out there and they're not getting the book sales that they deserve. That is not a reflection on you or your writing. Okay, there are so many external components out there that are likely holding you back. It could be that your book is shit. That could be the reason. And in that case, people will tell you. People will tell you. If there's one thing the internet loves to do, it loves to tell you when you're wrong. It loves to tell you when something is shit. It loves to tell you it doesn't like you or whatever, for whatever reason. They'll let you know. So you'll know. For instance, me and my partner Neil, we absolutely do not get the book sales that we absolutely deserve for the amount of writing that we have, for the quality of our writing and all of that. And there are so many external forces that are causing that. And you also have to accept that there are things you can control and there are things you cannot control. And even with all of my experience as a social media manager, all of my knowledge of marketing and branding, at the end of the day, I cannot compete with the fact that we are facing, unfortunately, a closed internet. It's coming, y'all. It's been in progress. It's coming where it's going to be 100% pay to play. That is unfortunately the future we are marching toward, as well as so many platforms have already adopted that, where it's, if you're not a corporation throwing thousands of dollars in advertising money, all of your stuff is throttled by the algorithm, just no engagement. And it's not because your stuff isn't good. It's not because your stuff isn't engaging. It's because the algorithm is putting negative points on your stuff. And if you can't get your stuff seen, guess what? You can't sell books. And that's a big part of the reason why I do in-person events, is that is the best way to circumvent that problem, is there is no algorithm at an in-person event. I am just as visible as everyone else at the event. There are a whole other bunch of external factors with doing in-person events that can also prevent you from getting the book sales you deserve. Namely, the most important one, which is a big part of why, up until I got laid off, one of my goals was to expand and to start going to all these out-of-state events, was so that I could meet new readers. Because a fun fact that I learned last year is that it typically takes on average 7 times for someone to see something before they decide to buy it. 7. So that means that the first time I do an event, I'm going to have like whatever baseline of sales, whether that's 0 or it's a good number, whatever have you. The next time I do that same event, I'm likely to get more book sales because now people recognize me, and people who didn't necessarily buy a book from me before are like, oh, this person is back here. Maybe I should take a look at their stuff. They seem interesting. And then you go to it again, and then they see you again, and they're like, oh, you're here. I remember your books. Oh yeah, didn't you have that one book about the mermaid and the whatever? That kind of sounded interesting, and so on and so forth. And so my plan originally was that I was going to keep doing these events and keep expanding, because you just have to keep being like, buy my book, buy my book, buy my book, like, you know, just keep putting yourself out there, because the more that people see you, the more that they remember it. They have to keep seeing you. You have to keep just being in their face for you to become relevant in their universe and to have any hope of them being like, you know what, I will open my wallet and buy your book. It takes that repetition. And it's especially difficult to get that kind of repetition on the internet with algorithm throttle. Because I have people who are die-hard fans of me and my books, who support me and are like, so when's the next book coming out? So when's the next book coming out? That level of we love your stuff. Who tell me that they like never see my stuff in their feed, and they have to go out of their way to actually physically go to my profile. Go out of their way to go to my profile to then go manually see my stuff, that it doesn't just bloop up into their feed. And if that's my diehard fans who actively follow me and engage with my stuff, what hope is there with people that are just out in the universe, don't know who I am, don't know anything about me? And unfortunately, that's the world we're living in right now, where it is more difficult than ever to get your stuff seen, with all the competition, with all the noise, with all the AI trash clogging things up, with all of the throttle, with pay to play, just all of those different factors. And then, of course, there's the squeeze of that finances are worse than they have ever been in this country in decades, y'all. It's bad. People are having to choose between paying their bills and buying groceries. So you can't imagine that they're going to be like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to buy a book instead of pay my electric bill or go buy groceries for the week. No, people have far less disposable income these days than they ever have in memory. And so couple that with that you're not a very well-known author, what hope do you have? And I'm not saying this to discourage anyone, much the opposite. I am trying to show y'all that there are so many outside circumstances that are going to get in the way of you getting the sales that you deserve for your amazing stories. So I know that it is a thing that people largely in the old guard and people who are not in the publishing industry that love to perpetuate this myth of, well, if you're not getting the book sales that you want, your writing is probably bad. I myself have heard that 1,000 times over, and I give them this face every time they say it at me, and I'm like, yeah, okay, sure, buddy. Because here's the thing. I know for a fact, and Neil knows for a fact, our writing is good. We write good books. We write good stories. These are facts. And the reason that we know that is because our readers tell us so. And not only that, our fellow authors tell us so. People in the industry tell us so. And that is far more valuable than sales, is when you have people who have actually sat down and read your writing and they tell you, wow, this is amazing. That is the most valuable feedback to let you know the quality of your writing is. What do your actual readers think? What's reflected there? Because your writing doesn't have to be good to get sales, but your writing has to be good in order to get the recognition it deserves. So I hope this video has been helpful. If you like this video, please be sure to give it a like. And if you're new, subscribe. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for watching. Take care. Bye-bye.